Hello everyone. This month's mental health topic is youth suicide prevention. Um, so I know what some of you may be thinking. Why am I doing suicide prevention mental health in a video? Specific, specific, mm, specifically uh, geared towards the youth when I already have suicide prevention and mental health video. Well, um, my decision to do a video specifically geared towards the youth was made easy for me given my own path, my own past, um, and knowing that suicide, um, that it doesn't care about the age of the individual whose life it takes. So suicidal ideation. Um, the first definition is from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Um, and finds it as the act of thinking about or a state of preoccupation with ending one's own life. The act of can the act of considering or planning suicide. The Cleveland Clinic finds it as the thoughts or ideas centered around death or suicide. There are two forms of suicidal ideation. The reference for the for the review of these two forms is once again the Cleveland Clinic. But before I get into the two forms, that I want to say that it's important to note that suicidal ideation can appear um, differently from one individual to the next who are experiencing it. So the first form, and this is in no particular order, of suicidal ideation is passive, and the Cleveland Clinic defines it as suicidal thoughts that that occur without any desire to make a plan of action to inflict self harm. The second form, as defined by the Cleveland Clinic, is active. And their definition states that it is suicidal thoughts that motivate an individual to take steps in creating an action plan to inflict self harm. In other words, or in other terms, this is when somebody is generally like truly like a focus on like ending their own life. You know, like they're actively taking the steps to basically make that realization. Um, so potential warning signs. I do want to note first that it is important that um, uh, that we understand that not everyone will show the same warning signs, and some potential red flags um, may go overlooked. And some of those potential warning signs include giving away value be like longings, like if someone has like a favorite like like electable, you know, that they wouldn't like part with, but now they're making plans to give it like away, you know. um but not just doing that, but also like writing or like leaving it like a note, that basically like outlines, it's like that who they want to have what, and the reason that they're doing what they're doing, um like, I mean, it may or may not look like a suicide note. It may be like, in like a sense, like it will, that they're just like writing out. It could be one or both of those things. Um, and And another potential warning sign is talking about a plan for self-harm, or talking about giving up on life. This also includes talking or thinking that everyone would be better off without them, and and just add on to that, thoughts, that I would be a better off dead. Those are all potential warning signs. And again, some of the ones that I went over and listed, that they are noted by the Cleveland Clinic also. So, diving into treatment and healing. I do want to note that some of the things that I'm going to talk about will come from the Cleveland Clinic, and then others will be from my own experiences. But before I dive in, I do want to say that it's important to remember that treatment will vary by individual. Simply put, some forms of treatment may work for one individual, but not for another. So now, not getting into treatment and healing, what that may look like. So, making a safety plan, listing out what are some things that I can do, if I start to have these intrusive thoughts, what are some warning signs, you know, that I'm leaning towards a certain thing. What are some places that I deem as safe that I can go to when that I have these thoughts, and and it becomes overwhelming. When I start to go down the rabbit hole, where is somewhere I can go? And then also as well as in visuals who I can talk to, in those moments. All of that, and I think more, that it definitely goes into a safety plan. And oftentimes that a safety plan is created doing a one-on-one therapy session. That's when I created mine. It can also be done, if you call the crisis line or the suicide like hotline. The individual that you are talking to, they could like ask you like what are some things that you can do, to be safe, to ensure that you don't like act on like XYZ. And that also counts. Some other things include cognitive behavioral therapy. Therapy that's meant to help us come up with effective coping skills. Things to put into like our toolbox. So when that we feel like a certain way, or we notice that these thoughts are coming, what are things that we can do, it's like navigate uh through this, like in that like a moment, and like I will say, like one of the things that um that you may learn, is that you have to let the thought leave on its own, because trying to force it out, trying to make it leave, that only makes the mind think of it just that much more. Um, um, some individuals may take medication, and in addition to like having those one-on-one sessions with a therapist and or a psychiatrist. Some other forms would be like inpatient or like outpatient mental health programs, attending small therapy groups, going to going through trauma therapy, going to therapy that's that helps with like emotional like regulation, like I know that's not like everything, that's not like in like end all, but it's just some of the different things that that are like out there and like available, um you know but it's like also important to remember that healing um uh uh will take time, you know and like with that, like that, as we're trying to work to these things, and like opening Pandora's box, as I would call it, that we may see like a slight like increase like in our symptoms. We might start to notice things that that we thought we were like over, or we like worked through, because well, we're talking about certain things more, and and that may make our mind, like a more like aware of different things, which in turn that act as small triggers, and and that's what can lead to like an increase in a person's symptoms. So for those of you who are new to my mental health topic videos, this is a part of the video where like I talk about my own stuff, where I talk about how I can like either really like relate to something, or just what that it like it means in my own eyes. Um, so given that I try to be as honest and open as I can be, because I think that's important. Um, so I'm not gonna hide the fact that when I was a kid, that I, looking back on it, I didn't know it like at the time, but I know it now. That I was dealing with a lot of things like mentally, and they had an impact on my overall mental health. Um, you know, like I reached a point, like as a kid, I couldn't have been any more than, well, like 8 years old. That if I was eight, um, and that I made up my mind, that I couldn't take things anymore. Like I couldn't live like a certain way anymore. Like I couldn't cope with or deal with certain things happening. Like I couldn't take any more broken promises. And and to be like honest and open, yes, I did try to take my own life. You know, um, I will say that God saved me that day. That He saved me from myself. Because because as a kid, it's like we lack the ability to grasp like all of the like logical pieces. You know, in our minds, one thing we like are thinking about is that we don't have to deal with this anymore, right? Like we don't think about like everything else. We don't truly dive too far into the like impacts like of it. Um, like I will say that trauma is definitely like one of the things that led to me wanting to take my own life. Um, you know, which is another big like a reason like why that I wanted to do this mental health topic. You know, um, and I will provide a link about some like about like some other things, it's like to look out for and the video of unanswered pleas for help, which talks about like childhood depression and trauma, and how that it like impacts like a kid, because I think that it's easy, like to think at times, that kids that they don't go through certain things, or they don't have like a mental health like issues, you know, like no, kids also go through things. They just may not show the exact same warning signs that adults do. Um, but yeah, getting back to um to my story. Like like it's important to take into account the events that led up to that. One of the events that led up to that was that I was sexually abused um by a cousin of mine. Um and around the same time I was being bullied at school. I was being um emotionally, physically, and mentally abused when I was at home. And for like a kid, that's a lot to have to deal with. That's a lot to ask of like anyone to deal with, like let alone like a little kid, you know? So yeah, so I made up my mind, like, cause like I went to like adults, it's like I counted on them to keep me safe, to look out for me, and they failed me, like in that respect, like they failed to keep me safe, like I heard, well, it won't happen again, well, it was a mistake, well, I'll stop, this and that, like all of those broken promises that they started to like really like add up, and and I didn't see any other way out, like a part of me wish that one of my older brothers was actually like around, because then maybe some of the abuse that happened at home that it wouldn't have happened, but I mean, like, I already know that I mentioned it, but that's a lot to have to deal with. That's a lot to have to ask of like anyone to have to deal with, like less alone like a kid, and it's not hard for me to see, like looking back, it's how that I would jump to want to do that, like it's not hard at all, it's not hard because like stuff keeps like happening, and you want it to stop. Like you want it to stop, like you want it to like end, and you're told that it will end, that it will stop, but it doesn't, and you just feel like nobody is truly doing like enough, to make it stop, to like end things, to try to make things better, to try to help you process what's going on, to try to help you deal with what's going on, and and when you feel like your back is up against the wall at such a young age, like it's not that hard, to like think, well, well, if I end my life, then all of the pain will stop. I won't have to worry about this person doing this. I won't have to worry about if there's gonna be another broken promise or like anything else, you know? So yeah. So that's a big like a reason why I truly wanted to do a mental health topic video that talks about the like youth, like in regards to like suicide pre like invention, because that is a thing, like there are kids that take their own life too, and like a lot of times, and I already know, and I know that I went over this like already, but there are red flags that are missed. Like, it's like I can't speak to like everyone, I mean, like I definitely know that there were signs with me that went like overlooked, you know. Um, like in adults, like I mean, like it's easier like to spot them, but with a kid, it's not always, like easy, like to like spot, and so sometimes those warning signs or those red flags, they get overlooked, you know. And to be honest, like it's something that I think that we need to put more of like emphasis on, like more of like a focus on, to help prevent, like the loss of a life, and especially if there are signs that we like notice, you know. So, uh, diving into the closing statements, like I want to say above everything else, like take care of yourself. Find and or create a safe space. Like it's like somewhere where that you feel like that you can go to. When it seems like that you're over like overwhelmed. When it seems like all of the thoughts are flooding in. And this also goes back to the safety plan, because one of the things that you have to like think about is a safe space, which actually goes into the next thing I was going to actually mention. Make a safety plan, and with that, like also build like a support system, like people that you can talk to, like lean on, people who can help walk you back from the edge, people who can keep you from jumping over like the edge, you know, um, or from making like choice or decision that you that you ultimately cannot come back from, um, you know, And I also want to say, like, remember that healing takes time. Like, it doesn't and it won't happen like overnight. Um, don't forget that the things that have happened to you along your journey in life, that they don't have to find you, and they certainly don't have to control you. I think it's important to remember that there is hope, at the exact same time. This should go without saying that if you notice like a difference like in somebody's behavior, if you had noticed that someone is acting odd or unusual, or you notice that they seem withdrawn, or even worse, that they talk about wanting to die. Like, in my opinion, like, personally, like, I think that in that instance, um, that we owe it to them to try to at least like talk to them, to try to get them help, or to notify someone that we know that they will actually talk to, that if they won't talk to like us, so that way that they know that there is someone out there that who does care about them, and that their life does ultimately like matter, like, that means a lot, you know um because, to be quite honest, like, to want to fight on, like, to want to live on, to not want to give up, it's like you have to have something that you believe is worth like living for, and something that can like go like a long way, is to know that someone cares, to know that our life, that it does matter, you know um that, like, if anything else, that I hope that if you notice, like, these things, that you would sincerely like try to like talk to like like a visual, to try to get them help, um or that if that you're the one who's going through this, that I would encourage you to try to talk to someone. Yes, there are people out there who will not listen, who won't try to offer up like help or like anything else, but there's always that one individual who will like listen to us, and who will like, and who will like offer help. Um, it's like, I don't know if you're religious or not, or like what your religion may or may not be, but like that I've learned, that God always listens to us, even those moments when we think that He's not, because we're going through so much, and that we're asking for help, and we kind of feel like He's not like listening, because things are still happening. Like, I promise you that He's still listening, that He's still there, you know, that He won't just like abandon it you, um, you know, um, and I also want to say thank you to anyone who is watching this video, and like a special thank you to anyone who is watching this and shares it with someone who they think that it could help, you know, and to those who have learned things from this video and are able to use that, to help others in general. Yeah. So as always, I want to say that I hope that everyone has a wonderful and a safe week. Until the next time.